your reading experience or your literature search. Maybe we can try to discuss together and try to help each other. Is anybody experiencing any difficulties to find materials online? And is the library open or not?
Yeah.
The library is open or not?
Okay, ma'am.
The library is open,
Not
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 open
open.
for
Not
visit,
open.
only for
not
borrow.
open,
Oh,
Oh,
9
you
November.
not open.
The
Till 9
office
November. Yes.
address is available.
Oh, okay, it is open. Can you stay in the library to do research? Or you just go and pick up some books and you have to leave?
It's already closed, but if
Not
you need
open.
any
Not
book,
open. Oh,
you should to send the name of book, and they will
Oh,
give you
okay.
the book.
Oh, okay. That is good enough. That is good
Mhm.
enough. All right. Alhamdulillah. Well, at least you can get the books that you need, right? Okay, that is good. What about other, difficulties or other problems with regard to finding resources? Did you explore the research getaway on the library website?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you manage to upload some of the articles?
Ma'am, I face some problem.
Okay. You cannot upload or you cannot download the article.
uh, Downloaded, but
Oh, okay.
some
Why?
articles,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
some articles when I click in the Google Scholar or Google link,
Mm-hmm.
then we showed the author name,
Mm-hmm.
but when for Google zero.
Yes, Misbah.
So
Yes, Misbah. Why? You
yeah,
cannot get access to it. It is restricted
ma'am.
collection, is it? Is that what you mean? You cannot get access to it because it is restricted? Okay, if that
No,
happen, what
ma'am.
you can do, I would suggest, last time
I
I
already,
said, hmm, you are not clear, Miss Ba. Maybe you can write
yeah, sometimes
on the chat box, and then I can help to resolve.
okay.
Hmm.
Can I can
You,
I repeat?
you, you
Can I
right,
repeat,
yeah,
ma'am?
you right, because I can't hear you very well.
Okay, okay,
Can you hear me well?
okay.
Because your Wi-Fi also sometimes has problems, but do you find any difficulties?
yes,
Problem.
madam. Your voice is not clearly.
I
Um,
see. My voice is not clear.
no net problem. I think so.
The line problem.
Yeah.
So, how is it now? Is it okay? Because
Yes.
I think now at
Okay.
my house the bar is full. The line is okay at my house. I can see the full bar, but I'm not so sure. Maybe it is in IIUM if you are in the university. I don't know about the rest of you, but there are times when my internet connection has problems, especially during the night. Anyway, since I am recording this class, today's thing, inshallah you will be able to watch again later. All right. So if you have any problems and you just type in the chat box and then we will go together. All right. So today I will not yet look at your assignments because you just submitted last night, and today I was doing some other things. Yeah. So I couldn't do the study. I cannot examine your paper tonight, yesterday, or even tonight. I have a meeting, so I'll do it over the weekend and send you like I did last week. All right, but hopefully by this weekend when I send you my response, you will be able to start doing the next thing, which is literature review, isn't it? Kan? After this is a submission of literature review. If I'm not mistaken, you are given like 2 weeks to do the literature review. You know, the draft of the literature review. Alright. So today my lecture we will discuss about this deciding deciding the methodologies, yeah. And I will be very quickly on this because I wanted to discuss about literature review, which is going to be uh, the the assignment that you are supposed to do after this. Okay, so let me go to literature review. Yeah, sorry, the methods. I guess in general you have a rough idea about what type of methods that is appropriate for your research title. Yeah, but today we are going to look at hopefully the the strength and the weaknesses of certain methods. Yeah? All right. So basically, when we talk about methods, we are talking about the techniques. Yeah, the well techniques in terms of the techniques or the tools that you need to adopt to do your research. Yeah. And when you talk about methodologies, it talks about the the discipline of research methods itself. Yeah. So it covers a lot of issues under research methodologies. Because we discuss the whole lots about um, things related to methods, yeah, such as when you talk about the design of your research, about the types of instruments that you need to do the research, and also what else about uh, when you look into the skills needed uh, to do some analysis. For example, if you are adopting quantitative method, then you need to know, say for example, SPSS or SEM, or Rush model, or what else, Smart PLS. So these are among the tools that you need to know when you adopt quantitative method. So these are all the issues pertain to research methodology. Yeah. Now, in broader perspective, you have quantitative and qualitative uh, approaches. Yeah, in your research. Most of you, I believe, choose to adopt qualitative method because we are not so much trained in quantitative method. Yeah? But anyway, since you are a master student, I think you should not neglect or you should not abandon the opportunity at least to know some ideas about the quantitative method, because maybe you want to adopt this method or you want to combine between the quantitative method, you want to combine between the quantitative method and qualitative method when you do your PhD. All right. So some people get confused that qualitative method only refers to interview and survey. Uh, interview, because you can also do survey by modes of interview. But no, it is not only limited to interview or observation. Qualitative method also pertains to library research, yeah, because it requires you to make qualitative analysis to the subject matter that you are studying or to your research problems, yeah. So of course when you talk about qualitative, it does not involve numbers or figures, yeah, or quantitative data. And so whatever research that you are doing that does not involve numbers, that would be regarded as qualitative. So I just want to clarify that some people thought that library research is not qualitative research. No, it is a qualitative research. So say for example, when you when you are and you have, methodology, method, research method there, then you put this research is qualitative in nature. Even though you do not adopt, interview, focus group discussion, observation, yeah? Or even though you are not adopting empirical method, which means that you need to go the to the field, or you do not adopt field work. But as long as it is, it require you to make qualitative analysis, so it is qualitative in nature. It is qualitative method. So most of you, I believe, prefer this method. Okay. And then what is quantitative method? Quantitative method, as I mentioned earlier, requires you to deal with numbers lah, and not most of the time it refers to the use of um, SPSS, the basic lah actually for your information. SPSS is the basic quantitative method. It has advanced quantitative method. As a matter of fact, you know that in SPSS they have what they call as advanced interpretation method. So you have very basic analysis of quantitative data, but also with SPSS you can adopt, or you can do advanced interpretive method, even though you use the basic SPSS, basic software for quantitative method. Of course, the more advanced method would be, like if you use SEM, or if you use rush model, like I said just now, or now people have been using what we call that, smart PLS. For your information, I also have yet to learn using smart PLS and rush model because I am I'm so nervous to deal with figures. I have some basic knowledge using SPSS, yeah, some advanced analysis technique, yeah, but not SEM. I have attended SEM 3 times for your information, but I still cannot comprehend the techniques, yeah, because it requires a lot of step, and I'm still not familiar with the steps. Maybe because it is not something that I do more frequently in my research. And most of the time, because I rely on my research assistant, so you see my research assistant become more expert, not me. But anyway, it is good to learn because we will be able to, to read, to analyze, to examine, and when you become an instructor, a lecturer, kan, you will be assigned to read thesis. So sometimes people ask you if you are able to read quantitative, or if you are able to understand quantitative study or not, because they want their students to be examined by yourself. Yeah. So if you have some ideas, experience, or have adopted this method, you will be able to become the examiner. Yeah. So that's why I said do not abandon at all, even though you're not interested in figures. I'm not so fond of numbers myself, but I'm giving myself a chance to learn as many techniques as possible. Yeah? The same goes to you lah, when you're young people. Inshallah, you'll be able to absorb better than myself. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look at what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of qualitative and quantitative method. I mean, there is no one perfect method, student. All methods have its own strength and weaknesses. Yeah. Um, but the reason why we choose certain method is because we think that is the best appropriate method for the title that we have chosen. So it's not a matter of preference. It's not a matter of because you're so used to it, yeah, but because you know why it is best method for the research that you want to do. Because you see, as a researcher, you need to get the findings, isn't it? And in the last 2-3 meetings, I mentioned to you that whenever we do research, we want to find something new. We do not want to repeat what have been attempted, what have been found by other research. Because this is not what research is all about. Research is bringing something new. Say, even though at the master level, you are not required to bring something new, big findings in your research, but still we want the fresh perspective of the title that you are choosing. Yeah, even though being the deputy dean of postgraduate study, I sometimes look at the titles in some of the departments are very cliche. Like, people have been doing research on this. So what is the new, what is the gap of the research that the students want to explore? I can sense a lot of repetition, but I mean, that is at the level of the departments lah to examine and to analyze. After all, it is not my, specialization. Because say I'm from Usuluddin and then I look at title from Quran Sunnah, for example. I said, wow, this title, have been attempted many times. There's nothing new about it. But it is not proper for me being, specializing in Usuluddin to say something about people doing research in Quran on Sunnah studies, alright. But I think on top of that, what I wanted to say is that we need to have this spirit for uh, exploring new avenues because we want to contribute to the body of knowledge. I mentioned to you earlier, right? Because we are in the academia, we are in this, intellectual body of knowledge, and we want everybody to, even little thing, to chip in, yeah? Not to repeat what have been attempted before. Okay, so now go back to these qualitative methods, the method which many of us are fond of, yeah, inclined to. Of course, if you are adopting empirical method or field work, going to the field, yeah, um, when it comes to data collection, the most uh, method that you will adopt would be, interview. Huh? But it is called in-depth interview. Yeah? In-depth interview, not simply interview, but it is in-depth interview. So you see, the term itself give um, the significant meaning of it. You cannot just ask superficial questions on the interview, but you need to go dig deeper, kan? Remember I was talking to you about the breadth and depth of the study. So when you talk about interview, you are actually talking about the depth of the study, the depth of the problem. And there is one method that I think you need also to explore, because it's very time savvy and very practical, except that you will face some challenges in terms of getting people convened at the same time for you to administer the interview. It is called focus group discussion or FGD. One of my master students have managed to adopt this when she conducted master's research. She graduated last year, but she had IIM students in Kuantan campus to be her uh, respondents. She managed to get, I think, 5 groups, and every group consists of 5 to 8 members. Yeah, so she managed to do it and managed to um, analyze and get good findings from her research. So either you use observation. But observation, if you're really serious, you need to say, for example, like Abdul Karim can mention about the existence of Jewish community, say wherever lah, in Singapore ke, or in Thailand ke, or in Malaysia ke, kan. So if let's say you adopt observation method, the best way is, to stay with them. Or say for example, if you're conducting an observation on their rituals, to be together with them from from the very start until the end of the ritual or the festival. Um, I like watching documentary discovery on the Astro channel some time ago when I had time to watch TV, uh, because I like this one guy. He died. He is a scientist. I forgot what is the name for his specialization, but he studied alligator. I think Steve something his name. He died because he was stung by the, what do you call that fish? Yeah? That fish with very stingray fish. So he died. Yeah, and he was on his research work when he was stung by the stingray. So you see, my late husband used to say this: the scientists in the West, yeah, like when you study an alligator, for example, they will, live, eat, and do everything with the alligator. They will spend a lot of time with their research subject. Yeah. So like they eat on it, sleep on it, drink on it. I remember when I did my research, my friends told me like, oh, you have to sleep on it, drink on it, eat on it, which means that you have to all the time thinking about your research. I believe this is going to be your situation too. Even when you take shower, your mind will be thinking about your research all the time. Yeah? It's kind of disturbing because it brings you some anxiety to think about your research, but I think that is positive anxiety because it keeps you awakened and always conscious about your obligation about what you are doing. It's a positive anxiety, I would say that. Otherwise, if you don't think of your research, you will, what do? You procrastinate, you postpone the research, yeah? And then whenever you want to start again, you have to get the engine warm. It takes time for you to get the engine warm, and then the engine get cold very quickly. That is very unfortunate. So you need to make sure that the engine continue to run. So you will be in the zone of doing research. So what is the strength of qualitative method? One of the best thing about qualitative method is that you will be able to let the respondent speaks by themselves. Yeah, so getting an insider's view of the field. So it's not you who interpret or imagine or giving your explanation about the phenomenon, but it is the respondents perspective. So I think last time Brother Karim talk about phenomenological method. Yeah. So this is also another perspective or meaning of phenomenological method, whereby the respondents or the subject herself or himself, themselves, give the perspective on the issue that you are researching. Yeah. And also when you collect the data, you will be able to classify them, put certain themes to them, identify themes, and you will be able to relate between the themes. Yeah. So when you are able to relate between the themes, and what you can get is, of course, you can see the relationship, the cause and effect. So you will be able to look at the the whole data that you have as a dynamic process. Because especially when you talk about cause and effect, right? You need to know what would be the triggering point or the triggering reason, what it led to, and then the implications, so on and so forth. Yeah. And also when you communicate, when you write the report on the qualitative data, you can choose to adopt either descriptive style, or you want to uh, give adopt narrative style. What are these two, descriptive and narrative style? I actually prefer adopting both style together. Yeah. say for example, if I write my research, I advise my student writing a research like last time when I had my student doing FGD. So I said to her, okay, chapter 3, I want you to describe the data. So she described the data. Say for example, she has 5 groups. So she explained, okay, one group from the Kulia of Science, one group from the Kulia of Medicine. So she describes, yeah. And sometimes she will have to communicate the words verbatim what the respondent says, yeah, I mean word by word, yeah? Because she wanted to stress the point. Or for example, if there is very significant statement from the respondent that she needs to highlight in the research, or maybe she wants to explain or to describe the respondent's gesture, you know, in terms of maybe anger, emotion, or uncertain, or certain hesitation when she or when he, uh, communicate his idea. Okay, so this is descriptive. Normally, if I'm in my case, if I do research and or even my supervisor, I will say that, okay, you have to describe the data. Yeah. Okay, what is narrative style? Narrative style, for me, I choose to do it in chapter 4. Yeah, because narrative style is whereby you do not explain it with, not to say that it is not structured lah, it is structured, but you give your analysis at the same time. Yeah, you give your analysis at the same time, but you are uh, telling about what of the respondents. So you are the the respondents. Yeah. And for me, when I adopt this method in chapter 4, normally I will choose, say for example, 4 or 5 items that I want to stress very much in my research. And most of these items are the items that reflect the research questions or the research objectives, yeah, of my research. Yeah. So I will structure it accordingly. Because you see, in your thesis, your chapter 4 should be very analytical. So even though you adopt narrative style, in Malay, narrative style is penceritaan, right? But your explanation, or well, sort of descriptions lah juga, yeah, sort of descriptions must have must be analytical, especially if you're writing it in chapter 4. Some people like to immediately go to narrative style when reporting the research data for qualitative method. This is also okay, but I think if you are preparing reports or if you are sending your of course you can straightforwardly adopt the narrative. You are sharing the data with your respondents, with your examiner. Instead, if you go straight away to the narrative style, because you are going to choose certain items to be reported, right, or to be analyzed. So some of the items maybe not reported or abandoned. Maybe you think it's not important, yeah, but for me as an examiner, I need to know. I need to know uh, what what were the data that you have managed to gather, yeah, in your research, yeah. So I think in terms of thesis, it's always good to have this descriptive narrative style together. Okay. Okay, what are the limitations of a qualitative method, especially when you are adapting it for, and field work? Yeah. Yes, it is because you find that you have, say, for example, 25 respondents, can, and you are doing in-depth interview. It's very not to say impossible, it is possible, but it's quite hard also to find something that is conventional to everybody. Unless if the thing is alarming, uh, very, I mean, people are familiar to it, then you will find something conventional about the items lah. For example, when I conducted a research about what the public how the public defines religious pluralism, yeah, I managed to find something conventional about their understanding of religious pluralism, regardless whether they belong to the learned one or whether they belong to the public, the layman, or they belong to people who affiliate themselves to uh, religious organizations or NGOs, yeah, those who are active. So I found that, oh, there is something conventional about the understanding of religious pluralism. That is, most of them understand religious pluralism as religious plurality. Yeah, so I was very lucky because maybe it is something that is, familiar to them. Yeah. Uh, but anyway, depends lah on the research that you are doing. If you are lucky, then you find something conventional about the view of your respondents. Yeah. So you are lucky if you find, because say for example out of 25 of respondents, 20 of them so some conventional, understanding, then you have the reliability and validity there. I mean, your findings, your data is reliable and valid. Your questions are reliable questions, yeah. They are valid questions, and because of that, you are able to find reliable and valid data. Okay. And okay, another difficulties or weaknesses or limitations of qualitative method is because you zoom into certain context of respondents, right? So you cannot make a generalization. Say for example, when my student conducted a research about religious pluralism among IIUM students in Kuantan campus. Yeah. Why? Because Kuantan campus are science-based students. So she wanted to know if science-based students are aware altogether about this question of religious pluralism. Maybe for Gombak campus, especially KIRKHS is something that they know. Yeah. But she wanted to know if science-based students know and care about religious pluralism. Yeah. Um, she managed to get good number of respondents from different kuliah, but then she cannot make, say for example, she found that students from kuliah of medicine is more aware of religious pluralism in comparison to students from the kuliah of science. uh, so, but then she cannot make generalization saying that, oh, all students from kuliah of medicines understand religious pluralism. In comparison, she cannot because her study only represents the number of the respondents that she interview. So cannot make generalization, but can help to understand the problems as far as the respondents are concerned. Yeah. And of course, if you adopt interview method, you will face a lot, challenges in terms of collecting the data lah. Because why you need, say for example, you have 25 respondents or 30 respondents kan. If you are not doing focus group discussion, you can just imagine the time that you need to collect the data. Say for example, 25 respondents and one interview costs you 1 hour, right? So at least 25 hours lah you have to spend with the respondents, and challenging lah to get them. I don't know if you can conduct 2 interview in a day. I think it is quite impossible. Yeah, most likely you will be able to conduct 1 interview per day. It means that you need 25 days, right? Well, does that mean that every day you can conduct interview? I doubt that. Maybe in 1 week you can conduct 3 interview. So 3 interviews. 25 divided by 3. You need how many weeks to conduct interview, my dear? 8 weeks. 8 weeks is like 1 semester, is it? 1 semester is 14 weeks, right? So most likely 1 semester lah you need conduct it. Well, but if you are hardworking, you can. That is if you interview one by one. Yeah. But if you conduct focus group discussion, you can, team them up. So you can have, say, for example, 5 groups. So you may do it, say, for example, the most 5 weeks lah. 1 week, one group. Except that the other problems that you will be facing would be the time to gather all these respondents at the same time, isn't it? Because you need like 7 or 8 people, 10 people to convene at the same time. Well, now I think it's much more easier because we have now they call big data lah, but for 25 responders, not that big data actually. Okay, we are talking about a lot of data and they are very qualitative. You need to team them up together. Towards the end of the semester, I will introduce you NVivo and Atlas TI. Even though I have learned NVivo quite sometimes, 2 times, I adopted it one in my research and then I didn't use it anymore. So I kind of, forgot how to key in everything. But I will introduce you why NVivo is good for qualitative method or Atlas TI. For analyzing research interview, yeah, because NVivo Atlas TI will be able to help to shorten the time of analysis or interpret the data, qualitative data.
Madam,
Yes, yes.
for the qualitative method, if we cannot make the generalization, so how can we write in the conclusion?
Oh, your conclusion is based on the respondents, based on your respondents, based on your research alone. So your conclusion is only for the research, as far as the research is concerned, not for the whole phenomenon.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, can I continue? Can I continue to quantitative method?
Thank you, madam.
All right. So now the best thing about quantitative method is, of course, when you talk about mathematics, you talk about accuracy lah kan, precision, yeah. Like 2 plus 2 is 4. Your answer is very precise and very reliable. There's no doubt about it, right? The same goes to quantitative method, provided that you have developed good research questions lah. The problems or kan problems, the challenges with quantitative method is that you need to make sure that you have reliable and valid questions, valid questioning, valid survey. If you have wrong questions, then definitely you have wrong answers, or your answer, the respondent answer would not be reliable because the respondents do not understand actually what you want to ask. So they just like hentam saja. You know, they just like they want to quickly answer the question. Or sometimes your apa tu, your questions are too complex for them to understand, yeah, or double barrel. I mean, a lot of things in one question, so they just like agak-agak just like estimate, or maybe this is it, right? So they put, so that will affect the the precision and the reliability of the measurements of your data, yeah. And also you can be very specific because you have what the research called as, you know, control sample. Say for example, you talk about youth, youth. So then you define in your research what do you mean by youth? People at the age of maybe 18 to 45. Yes, so this is your control data, your control respondents, because the data that you reported only represents this type of respondents, yeah, or this type of sampling or this type of design, yeah. So uh, you know, people know that, you know, when you report your research, it is not representing the society at large, yeah? or you know, making a generalization of your findings. No, because automatically when you explain in quantitative research, when you explain your sample, people would register in mind, or examiner would register in mind, okay, this data is only referring to the sample. And of course, causality statement, because in SPSS you can adopt you can adopt what do you call it, relationship analysis. Relationship analysis, you know. Say for example, in my previous research, last year research, we investigate or we examine, what is it? We examine whether the young people in Kuala Lumpur who has no formal background in Islamic studies have more tendency to subscribe to liberal idea about religion. We want to see, is there any relationship with that? You don't have formal education in Islamic studies, and because of that you tend to be more liberal in the way you understand certain issues, you know, feminism, pluralism, freedom of religion. So we managed to find that not necessarily. Interesting findings. We were so shocked with the findings because we found that there were people or young people who went to sekolah agama, religious school, who study religion in a formal setting, but they also subscribe to liberal idea. They accept religious pluralism, yeah, or they subscribe to the idea of freedom of religion. Interesting, yeah. So our hypothesis was nullified lah, was challenged, yeah, because we thought that if people have good formal education in religion, they will not subscribe to this liberal idea. But our finding is different. Yeah, our finding is that even though they have religious background, but not necessarily they will not be trapped in liberal understanding of religion. And we found also, you know, we found also something shocking, is that our respondents who uh, who were very observant to their to religious understanding were actually those who receive Islamic inputs from the mosque. Which means that the mosque goers, people who went to the mosque, listen to the ceramah, listen to the talk at the mosque, yeah, were the people who more preserving in terms of their faith. So we know that, wow, what we learn from our findings is that we should make the ceramah or the speeches at the most more meaningful, uh, or more dynamic, because uh, it really influenced the young people understanding of religion. And we should encourage more people to go to the mosque, because that is how they learn religion. Surprising, right? So informal education of religion seem to have more impact to the young people in comparison to the formal education. Hmm. So you see, but that finding is relevant only to the respondents that we had. So we targeted for 600 respondents, 8 zones in Kuala Lumpur, but we managed to get 595 respondents. That is good number, yeah. And I mean that is referring to the 595 respondents in the Lembah Kelang from zone, 8 zones, yeah. Um, so we didn't make a generalization, but then we suggest to JAKIM, because this research is funded by JAKIM. We suggest to JAKIM that if they want more reliable findings, they should, fund us with greater amount, so we can have more respondents. We can cover wider area, yeah, in Selangor, or maybe if JAKIM can also get some other religious departments at the state level to collaborate, so we can make comparison, say for example Selangor and Pulau Pinang, Selangor and Pahang, something like that, yeah. So our findings are very interesting, and JAKIM would like to present that findings in one of the important meeting with the Prime Minister. It was scheduled in August or September this year, but the situation now is very not stable. Politically, we are also not stable. We are still waiting for the sitting with the Prime Minister to present our findings, because the findings are very good and reliable. All right, and okay, when you adopt quantitative method and you master the SPSS, of course your analysis will be very sophisticated lah. Because why I say sophisticated? Because these are the tested analysis, analytical tools, yeah. Either regression, then correlation, or relationship analysis. What else? ANOVA, we want to compare between groups. What else? Yeah, ANOVA is when you cluster your respondents into groups, okay? Because like in our research, we can cluster them into two, those with religious background, those without religious background, and then we can compare between the two groups. Yeah? So you have the tools to analyze the data. That's why your analysis is sophisticated. Yeah? And people cannot challenge lah. Yeah? Results are replicable and verifiable. Okay, what is also interesting, remember just now I was saying to you that if Jaki managed to convince the Prime Minister that this research is viable, because for your information, when we conducted this research, this was by the request of the former Prime Minister, yeah, Tun Mahathir. Tun Mahathir was worried that there were a lot of accusations that Muslims apostate. Is it true that the Muslims apostate because they have very liberal idea about freedom of religion? Yeah, this is the accusation, kind the general perception. So Tun Mahathir wanted JAKIM to conduct this research. He wanted to know very much about this. So we conducted that research and we get our findings. Yeah, but then you know that Tun Mahathir stepped down and the new Prime Minister Mahyudin came in, and we were very at first very disappointed lah because we wanted so much to show our findings to Tun Mahathir. Uh, and even Mahyudin is also looking forward to listen to our findings. And Jakim was also very adamant to share this finding, because all this while we have very, hearsay, but now we have data and we want to present this data. Yeah? But then, how it is the political situation now. I think if the situation is not improved, then we are actually wasting a lot of resources. Yeah, because like when this useful research, for example, it costs us 64,000. And just imagine if we cannot report it, if we cannot, do, I'm going to this point now, replicable and verifiable. Yeah, we can conduct similar research with greater respondents. We even can make comparisons. We'll be able to know the phenomenon, know the problem of the society, and then we are able to find ways of attending to these problems. Yeah. So we can use the same question, we need not to develop new instruments, new survey, new research questions. We can use similar questions and minister it. So this is what it means by replicable. We need not to start anew or back to square one. We can just use the same instruments and use that instruments to different type of respondents. You see? So that's the best part about quantitative method. Okay, but then as I mentioned to you, not all methods are perfect. There are also limitations with regard to this method. Yeah. Um, Difficult to rule out or control all variables. Yeah. What it means by this, when we design the questions, it was as I think we had more than 5 workshops to design the instruments, because we were trying very hard to make sure that the variables that we have chosen or selected um, will match our respondents. Especially when we ask questions regarding faith, when we ask questions regarding, philosophical issues. Say, for example, there was a group of questions about secularism. You think it is easy to ask the youth about secularism? Very difficult, because we want to simplify the questions to them. We cannot simply say, "Oh, I believe in secularism." Cannot, because they will ask you, what is secularism? Right? So we need to um, bring out list down the items that altogether give meanings to secularism and ask the respondents. For example, one of our question goes like this. Yeah, we ask, do you think that Islamic studies should not be taught at school? Do you think that uh, covering aura is cultural? Uh, Second question. So we know if they answer strongly agree, then we know that this person has a very secular way of looking at religion, because to him religion should not be taught at school. Yeah, or hijab, covering aura, well, not hijab. We use the word covering aura, not hijab, because hijab is very female oriented, kan? We don't want that biasness. We want it to, to cover the men as well. Not cover, I mean include men as well. So we say covering aura. Yeah? So, and they say it's cultural. So if it is cultural, this is also another secular perspective of covering aura, because covering aura is instructed in the Quran, not a cultural thing. It's religious thing. Yeah? Things like that. Yeah. So it's very tedious and exhaustive measure lah when we list down the questions. Yeah. And also we found that respondents react differently to the same situation, to the same person. Say for example, if we actually ask our enumerator, our research assistants who go out to collect the data, we said, okay, you don't only go to the mosque. Eh? If you go to the mosque, you will get um, a very similar type of respondents. You need also to go to the houses, kan? You need also to go to the shops. You know, when you find people, young people lepak-lepak kan, sitting at the side of the roads, you also have to approach them. Because if you go only to the mosque, you will find um, similar trend in the question. So you will find that you need to have mixed context. And of course, you cannot control the context. Say, for example, if you go to we tell our research assistant, if you go to the mall, some people are not happy to answer questionnaires at the mall, isn't it? They are in the zone of shopping, want to have, good meal, kan? But then you disturb them. So sometimes they answer you just very quickly just because they want to get things done very quickly, right? So in comparison, say for example, if you meet them at their home, yeah, so they are more relaxed, they are more comfortable, right? And um, more appropriate for them to answer the question because they are in their own comfortable zone, right? So, see, that is also among the limitations of quantitative method lah. Just imagine sometimes you have parents can with children. I think you also experience this. You know, you go to the mall and then sometimes people offer you credit card lah or insurance lah and you are with children and then cut 10 minutes je, 10 minutes je. Yeah, but actually that person take you like 30 minutes and you start to be very angry and you just like okay. Because you want that to finish very quickly. The same goes to quantitative survey. Yeah. Um, okay. So some notions are excluded from the process of freedom of choice and moral responsibility. For example, freedom of choice, freedoms in terms of you give them the variable already and you give them the score, can you give them strongly agree, strongly disagree. Sometimes people researcher refrain from putting uh, indifferent. We have like strongly agree, agree, indifferent, fairly disagree, and strongly disagree. Can, and sometimes your respondents very difficult lah to answer, so you just put indifferent. Neither here nor there. Neither disagree nor agree. You know, when you have many answers like this from your respondents, you die. because you cannot make analysis. You see, so the catch is this: when we were preparing our instruments, we were like, oh, should we do this or not? Should we do this or not? Because we know that especially if your questions are very mind triggering and thought provoking, your respondents will get tired very quickly and they were like, okay lah, indifferent, or those are not applicable, or they will put neutral. Number 3 1, 2, 3, 5. Normally people will subscribe to 1, 2, 3 to 5. So number 3 is the most lah.
Yes,
So that is the catch lah. But there is also another skill that I love using. Yeah, but not every questions can use this skill. Yeah, but you can try. You can use a rating style. Rating style in terms of you put on the scale of 1 to 7. Please answer this question. So you have 1 strongly disagree, 7 strongly agree. And you don't put anything in the middle. But the respondents will be able to estimate, okay lah, maybe I'm number 3 or maybe I'm number 4 lah kan. So for example, how observant you are in terms of your duties as Muslim. From, from 1 to 7, how do you rate yourself in terms of your observation, your duty as Muslim. So the respondent would say, okay lah, not that 7 lah, maybe 6 to maybe 5. So she will not put neutral or not applicable, maybe because she did not pray at all. Not applicable, but she did not pray. Because there is also another catch lah in questions like this. Some respondents will not answer based on what their practice. Okay, this is also another issue that we deal with when we design the questions in terms of trying to find the respondents' understanding of religion, the respondents' practice of religion, because there is a tendency for the respondents to choose answer that reflects the what is it called? Reflects the expectation of the society. Actually, there is one specific term for that. Forgot lah, yeah. So it is not her answer or his answer, but the expectation of the society. So, for example, do you pray regularly? So she will put like 4 or 5 because this is what the society expects a Muslim to be. Not so much to reflect his or her situation, but the expectation from the society. Trying to recall the term, but I cannot recall it now. So it is reflecting the moral standard or the moral responsibility one has to assume instead of the one that he himself embrace or practice. Yeah. Okay. Another challenge with quantitative method on the part of the researcher and on the part of the people who read your research. Yeah? On the part of the researcher, you can become so obsessed with your number. Yeah, so you think that, like I mentioned just now, all these numbers definitely the 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 accurate data to explain about the situation. No lah. Actually, the numbers, the data give some impressions of the situation. Cannot be that confident. That's why I said just now, it reflects 595. Yeah, at least of all the populations in that 8 zones, we assume the populations may be about 1.3 million. Yeah, so we can only cover 595. So our stance was that this represent the 595. But you will find that some researchers, especially if they have larger sample, they would say, "Wow, definitely this represent the situations." Maybe you have come across Merdeka polls, or recently I think the EMI Research Institute have managed to conduct a number of many surveys, yeah, to the people. And I think maybe also you are familiar with Pew Research Center. Pew Research Center, I think this is a US based research institute. Pew Research Institute, not center. Pew Research Institute, PEW. It's very useful research findings. You can tonight you go and Google, because many quantitative research, statistical data were reported all over about the research all over the world lah on different titles lah. Yeah. Like extremism, terrorism, freedom of religion, a lot of titles that may be useful for you to be captured in your own literatures. Yeah. So, say for example, the Pew Research Institute claimed that some of the countries do not have freedom of religion. Ah, and that is research-based finding according to them. So one of the countries, in their opinion, that do not have freedom of religion is Malaysia. Yeah, because they have conducted survey to Malaysians. They did not mention about the number. Yeah, but they conducted research certain period of time. Yeah, and they found that most Malaysians view that there is no freedom of religion, and also in their research they found that we have institutions that uh, govern religiosity, especially Muslims in Malaysia. So they regard that when you have this institution, religious institution like JAKIM, in Malaysia we have JAKIM and all religious department at the states, yeah. And you know that we have the Sultan, yeah, the Agong as the protector of religion. Okay? So this they regard as what you call limiting religious freedom, especially among the Muslims in Malaysia. Yeah. Uh, okay, and then fails to take account of people's unique ability. Yalah, of course, because you push on their throats the variable kan. Like for example, I said just now, when you want to see if they adopt secular idea about religion, so you design the questions to the extent that 10 question, 11 question, and then you make findings out of the 11 questions kan, conclusions of the 11 questions kan. So you will not be able uh, to differentiate one respondent from the other lah, because you have similar conventional way of assessing them. Yeah, so that would be it. Of course, the best way is to combine the two methods lah, but it is going to be very challenging. I think in the last class I've mentioned about what does it mean by mixing the two methods, quantitative and qualitative. Yeah, mixing the two methods, or what they call as mixed mode, is either by starting with the qualitative method and then adopting a quantitative method based on the findings that you get in the qualitative method, yeah? Or starting with quantitative method and then design the questions for the interview based on your findings in the quantitative method. So that will be very, very interesting method to adopt for your research, but of course very challenging. Yeah. Okay. Um, okay. Now, how do you know that you adopt a certain method? Which method is the best? You have to come up with research design. Even if you are not doing empirical research or field work, you need also to have to to prepare a research design. Okay, what is research design? Yeah? Research design is like a mind map of your research. Yeah? Mind map of your research. What you want to do, how you're going to do it, where you going to get the sources, when are you going to do this, to conduct the data collection, data gathering, so on and so forth. Yeah. So most importantly, when you do the research design, you need to be ready with problem statement lah, or SOP, statement of problem, problem statement, and you need to have already research questions. Yeah, because when you have all these, then you will be able to map or to at least visualize lah how your research will go about. And of course, from the very beginning, you have to decide quantitative or qualitative. Yeah. If it is quantitative, it means that your research will be somewhat very fixed. Yeah. If it is qualitative, it's going to be flexible. Yeah. And whether it is experimental, not experimental, whether you want to find cause and effect, yeah. Whether you want to see the correlational, mediating relationship or moderating relationship, so on and so forth. Okay, and okay, and then when you design your research, yeah, you need also to consider the followings. Yeah, how are you going to get the information? Yeah, library, yeah, internet sources. Yeah. Maybe you need to interview experts. For example, you do some research that is not so much research at the moment, very new topic kan. Not enough materials, all the books on the shelves are very archive uh, in terms of the discussion, in terms of the data. Um, not much written in the journals, article, yeah. So what you do? You need to interview. You need to interview people. So even at the level of literature also you have to interview. Now it is even interesting now because you can also get, say for example, YouTube clips lah, kan? Video clip as your source of information, provided that the video clip is reliable lah, not TikTok ke, not TikTok or whatever funny inputs that you have on the internet. Yeah. And then availability and skills of the researcher and his staff. Of course lah, you need to consider your skills, your ability kan, the time frame that you have. Don't forget your supervisor's ability as well, because to tell you the situation is not all lecturers are experts in all subjects or in all studies. Say for example, you are conducting quantitative method, but your supervisor has never had any experience conducting quantitative study. Don't try, you will have a lot of problems. Yeah? If that happens and still want to do quantitative study, I suggest that you appeal to the committee to get somebody from human sciences to be your core researcher. That somebody who knows quantitative study to be your core researcher. Yeah. Or I think this is quite sensitive. Some supervisor do not have research in the title that you want to do, but he is assigned to be your supervisor. I mean, if that happens, it's quite unfortunate because you have to maneuver on your own. Why? Because if the supervisor has research in that area, he will be able to actually guide you what are the important resources, what are the important articles, who were the experts, who are the author that you need, what are the materials that you need to read. Because he has research in that area. I have been examining a number of theses here. So I found that some supervisor did not assign the student to read relevant materials on that particular subject. For example, one thesis I examined, the student should read some of the works of Jasir Auda, for example. Jasir Auda on Maqasid Syariah, yeah. But then he did not include that in his research. Well, maybe he thought it is not relevant, but Jasir Auda has written a lot on Maqasid Syariah, and you did not refer to that. So this student say, oh, because I want to explain the philosophical aspect of Maqasid Syariah, not the technical aspect of the Maqasid Syariah. But still, because this person has written a lot in Maqasid Syariah and abandoning him in your research will make you difficult on the day of Viva, for example, because the one that I mentioned just now is PhD research. So he was drilled on the day of Viva for not referring to Jasir Auda. Don't play. So it is important for the researcher to get a supervisor that is familiar to his area of research. Yeah. You know, if I can advise you lah, if I can advise you, because I know that when you start your research, I was like you also before. We were very ambitious. We thought that our research can solve a lot of problems. Yeah. But bear in mind that the reason why we do research at master level, at PhD level is because we want to master the research skills, yeah, and we want to contribute to the body of knowledge, yeah. Um, it's not that we want to solve problems, you know, the world problems, you know, in a large scale, or you want to help with the government policy. No. If you want to do that, you do that after your PhD. After you become a lecturer, you can write a proposal because now you have all the skills needed to conduct the research, and you are given the time frame that you want, you know, like the whole year for you to do the research, 2 years for you to do the research, and then you do it during that time because by that time you have the credential already, you're already a doctor. So the government will, you know, find it useful. Not, I mean, you are credible in the area. So they would want to adopt your findings in the policy, for example. But for masters and PhD, don't be that ambitious. I mean, even if a professor can use your research for his research and bring policy out of your research, that is good enough. Yeah. All right. So and then the cost factor relating. Okay, if you want to do quantitative research, for example, make sure that you have enough funding lah, because most of the time you need to meet the respondents and alah, sometimes you need to give them some token lah, pen ke, you know, or mark ke, or something that can show that you appreciate their labor, you know, like 1 hour answering your question, something like that. The best thing is if the title of your research is also the title of the supervisor's research. I mean, not exactly the same, but maybe one portion or one aspect of his research is your master thesis. Yeah, then she or your supervisor can fund um, your interview because she needs the data from you, right? So that would be good. If you become the research assistant of your supervisor. Yeah. Okay, but of course you need to publish paper. Yeah. Many of the students want to be research assistant. They have no problem to gather the data. But when it comes to publishing the data, Masya Allah, it's very difficult for them to write. This is what I found very true. I have a number of research assistants, but some of them like in the middle of the research, oh madam, I quit lah. Some of them just missing and this and that. Alright, so this is basically what are the methods you use for certain type of research, library research, field research, laboratory research. I mean, you can read this by yourself. Yeah. So I will skip this because I think you can read on your own. Yeah. After all, I am not sure how many of you are conducting empirical research. But say for example, interview research, you want to conduct interview. When you design the interview questions, you have three what you call it, style, yeah, either structured whereby you have the questions say 10, 15 questions and you ask your respondents all that questions and nothing outside that questions, or you have semi structured questions where in between the questions maybe you find that your respondents have bring out something interesting for you to know, then you develop questions on the spot based on his responses. So that is called semi-structured research. Or you have unstructured, mashallah. This is going to be very, very challenging, but I think very interesting to report as well, because unstructured research requires you to understand the context. Yeah. Um, I think you need also to have observational methods, because your questions will be very much depending on what you observe on the field. Yeah. So maybe for example, when you interview how modern Muslims celebrate Idul Fitri, kan? You cannot have structured questions, unstructured, but to be able to conduct the unstructured, you have to observe lah, right? You sit down, join them, and then something that interests you, you give question. Maybe you want to compare between in Malaysia, it will be interesting to compare between the Chinese Christians, Indian Christians, celebration of Christmas. Because you find that, they have uh, different way of celebrating, because they have also some traditional celebration. Yeah. So they, or maybe for the Indians, they have their traditional food. Yeah. For the Chinese, they have their traditional food. Yeah. Apart from what? Apart from the apa tu? What they used to have? What is that chicken? It's not chicken lah. Dek, apa dek binatang tu? Haiwan tu dek. During the Thanksgiving. Apa during the Thanksgiving? I think you know what I mean lah. This tak ingat. Okay, never mind. Forget about it. It's not important anyway. I'm giving you example only. Okay, so I think that's about it with regard to this one. I wanted to go very quickly to literature review, because after this you're going to do literature review, right? Yeah, but I've used like 1.5 hours to this lecture. Any question before I proceed to literature review? I'm sorry, I'm rushing.
Madam,
Yeah.
Madam, in order to literature review, at first I have to collect some materials that they related to my topic. Then reading all materials is difficult for us. How to manage to this?
MashaAllah. I also, when you say that, I think I share your concern, because that happened to me also. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, there are techniques lah to do literature review. Of course, first of all, you need to have this. I mean, talking about techniques, yeah.
yes,
You need to have this lots of questions in mind. Lots of questions in mind. So while reading, you need to do scanning to these questions. When you read certain paragraph, then you can straight away relate, okay, this paragraph refer to so-called questions. That's why it is good to have, list of research questions. So when you deal with the literature, you will be able to relates the literature to the existing research questions that you have in your mind. That is one technique. But I think I have advised you to have research area, right? So that's why when you have that research area, then the broader your research area, the challenging would be lah. But if you're able to zoom it a little bit, then you'll be able to focus not only in terms of the type of literature that you are dealing with, but also the title, yeah, because you will not only go to a very broad literature, but also you will go to the very specific literature that can help you to develop the references for your research. So you see, if you ask me the first rule of the thumb, Brother Misbah, the first rule of the thumb is to read as many as possible lah. I'm so sorry if this is a, very funny answer from me, because it's like you are swimming in the ocean. It's
Yeah.
a blue ocean strategy lah kan. Blue ocean strategy that you need to adopt at the very beginning. But then after reading kan, you will surely get to something. I believe, I assure you that you will be able to get into something, at least the background of the things that you want. But then of course lah, before you do the literature, you need to have something. Like I said, the research area, because it cannot be too broad, because if it is too broad, then it's very difficult to swim. Yeah.
Yes.
So you read a lot, and then definitely you will be able to identify what are the most relevant one. Okay, remember I teach you using Zotero. You can put them in your Zotero library, and then you can slowly make a subtitle under subfolder under your Zotero library. Say for example, talking about Judaism, right? So you have another folder. You say, okay, Judaism, Singapore. So any materials that reflect, the Jews in Singapore, you copy and bring into the Jews in Singapore. For example. So, your library will also assist you in managing the theme of your research. In managing the theme of your research. Um, and also today's lecture I will give some guidelines on how to how to design the literature review, and finally you know produce a literature review. Produce a literature review. Okay, first of all, let me highlight these three things. Why literature review is important. Why literature review is important. The importance of literature review. First is because it is a research. It is a research, and um, you want your research to have credibility. Normally when you argue with people, you say that this is research based analysis. This is proven by research. So you're giving certain credibility of your findings or the things that you are forwarding to people. Yeah. So when people say research based, it means that the person have enough literature that support for his research. So so if it is research based, is supported by certain literature, it gives merit to your research. So literature review give merits to your research. That's why literature review is very important. And say for example, other people who wanted to do research, they will also go to your literature review to benefit from your literature review. And when they look at your literature review, they know that whether this research has the merit or not. And also while doing the review, you will do the analysis. You will do the analysis. Okay. Please do not think that literature review, or please do not make your literature review a section whereby you only explain what the book is all about. This is not literature review. Literature review is not to tell, okay, book A say this, book B say this, book C say this. No, It's very descriptive way of doing literature review. But doing literature review is to adopt an analysis called meta-analysis. What is meta-analysis? Meta-analysis is, for example, you say, okay, book A explain about the percentage or the trends of the young people these days who have lost faith in religion, yeah, who cast their doubt in religion, and they cast their doubt by questioning traditional practices of religion, yeah, and so
Teacher, sorry,
for example, I'm explaining about one particular literature, saying that okay, the questioning about the traditional practice of the religion, and this group of young people, they adopt a very secular approach in life because they think that religion is only relevant to rituals. Some religion is very ritual oriented. Yeah? And then you say, however, this book is good in helping you to understand the phenomenon of doubt in religion among the young people. Yeah, but the literature or this work fail to explain the cause of loss of faith, the cause of doubt among the young people. So, while explaining about the literature, you are also commenting or analyzing about literature, the avenue, or you would say that this work is useful because it explains the doubt experienced by the young people towards religion. However, this work did not explain the cause of loss of faith among the young people. The other literature that is very useful is the research done, say for example, Bahaslina and Farid, ETAL, in an article title, because in this research, uh, in this uh, in this research, the group found that so on and so forth. However, the researcher did not conduct the research in a large scale manner. It only cover 8 zones in Kuala Lumpur or in Selangor, in wilayah persekutuan. The researcher found that there has yet any research that quantitative research that explains or deliberate or analyze the state of faith of the young people in Kuala Lumpur or in Malaysia, for example. This is for example. I'm giving you how meta-analysis is in a literature review. Yes, just now you wanted to ask who was that just now? Was it Misbah?
Yeah, ma'am, the scholar. Uh,
Yeah, please.
Sometimes when we read any articles, then
Mm-hmm.
we may see the author he mentions some others article information. He mentioned the
Okay.
others article. When we write something, so what should be
Mm.
the reference?
Oh, um, my supervisor teach me not to cheat. Of course, now it's very easy to just, the citation is there, everything can you just my supervisor teach me that as much as possible you should go to that article, read that article yourself, and do your own interpretation and analysis of that article, because your understanding, your analysis, your interpretation of that article may be different from that author.
Uh, so
Yes, so the best way to go
I
to
have to
find that
go the
article.
main article.
Yes, as much as possible. That is what called primary resources.
Okay.
I mean, if you take from, say for example, you take from me kan, and I am reporting a number of authors kan, actually you are taking from secondary sources.
Oh.
You want to get the primary sources. For example, many researchers believe or assume that Al-Biruni, for example, wrote on Hinduism, Kitab Malil Hindi, right? Well, he talks about the Hindus in general, right? Kitab Malil Hindi. But bear in mind that he also make a very specific study to one group of the Hindus, which were the Brahmins, not all the Hindus. But people generally would say, oh, Biruni studies of Hinduism. When he did not actually study Hinduism at large. The best way is to say he studied Brahmanism, or the Brahmin, the Brahmins,
Yes.
Al-Barahimah. Yeah. So, why this happened? Because maybe because people do not read Arabic and they refer straight away to Sachau. Sachau or Sakau, I do not know how to pronounce his name. I call Sachau, Edward T. Sachau, if I'm not mistaken, his full name. So when you refer to secondary sources, you tend to fall into the mistake of the secondary author. That's why, the 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 discipline that my supervisor taught me, my teachers taught me is to go straight away to the material, uh, to read the material because you may also benefit from his other expositions. I found it's very disturbing today that people who use APA style, for example, they quoted from number of research, yeah, number of articles. For example, you can see next to the statement they have like Haslina Ibrahim 2017, Farid Sharan 2015, Azril Muhammad Amin 2008. I don't know whether they really refer to. Maybe they only refer to Haslina Ibrahim, and because Haslina Ibrahim has referred to Farid Shahran, has referred to Azril Muhammad Amin, so they just put it there. This is very dangerous, and I think as researcher we have to be very, very have high integrity lah when we are reporting our research. That's why I don't like reading research with APA style, even though this is the trend now. Even now, I am writing my research using APA style because I think it's very disturbing. Apart from it is included in the body text. Secondly, because I think there is a trend for this research to just cite without really, maybe lah, we can assume they look at it, especially for social science research, because they want to show that certain research has been done by certain researcher, so they just quote, oh, this research conducted here, conducted there, I found that very disturbing, but I think that is very much the methodology conducted in social science research, especially because in social science research, it is essential for them to report in the article the last 5 years research. Yeah, the last 5 years research that will give merit to their research article. So that's why I think they need to report, need to indicate the articles that they have referred to, the last 5 years article they need to refer to, even though maybe they don't really read the article. But maybe what give merit to them is that similar research, more or less similar research, similar concern have been raised in that empirical research. All right. I hope I am answering your question. The best thing is always go to the primary sources. Try lah as much as possible. You know what? As a researcher, I feel obliged if any researcher would like to refer to my article. So maybe you can email the researcher. Yeah, if you have an account in academia edu, Academia Edu and ResearchGate, you will find many recent researcher. I will normally email them if I don't get their article, but most of the time I found they are very generous. They share the article in Academia Edu and ResearchGate. And every time I have read the article, I will send message to them saying thank you for sharing their research. I managed to get one author from South Africa, Abdul Kadir Tayyib or Tayyub, responded to my message because I read a great deal on his work, and I said thank you very much for sharing with me. So I developed my networking. Yeah, he's very far away from Malaysia, kan? But he also found interest in my research area, and he invited me to South Africa. I think was it last year or 2018 for a conference. He said that conference is, close type conference, and he made a special invitation to me. I feel very obligated lah because he found that I have, maybe he thought that my research is worthy to be presented in that conference, but then I could not go for some reason. I had to turn down. You see, so this is also another way of you expanding your networking as a researcher. All these technologies can help you because once when you become a researcher, you want visibility. The reason why people share in Academia Edu and ResearchGate is that people want visibility. I mean, you have done very good research, right? You have done very good research and you want other people to benefit from your research. So you are sharing your research for people to know what you are doing. And hopefully when people know what you are doing, they will regard you as an expert or somebody specialized in that area. Right? And I'm going beyond the title now. We are talking about meta-analysis. Did you follow me when I talk about meta-analysis just now? Can you follow me or not when I explain about meta-analysis? Okay, so remember, the literature review is not only reporting what the research, what the article is or the book is about, but also how it, but also making some analysis of the book, and also another thing I forgot to explain, also how that book is useful to you, how the article is useful to your research. For example, we have one article published in the US. I don't remember the title, but it's something about doubt among the young Muslims in America. So in that research, it has listed down some of the questions. So we said in our literature review that we have benefited from the research, from the article, because it has laid a list down important questions pertain to faith, and we are benefiting from these questions when we design our tools or our survey. So you see, uh, in literature review, you are also telling the people why this, how this article or resources have been helpful to your research. And ultimately, okay, at the end of your literature review, I hope that you will indicate this at least three lines or a paragraph, finding the research gap. Yeah. After you have did a great deal readings of the literature, manage to analyze them and justify why they are essential for your research, what you have gained from them. Yeah, you also need to tell that is the reason why your research is viable, because all this have been said, but there is something else that has yet to be said, and you want to fill in the blank. You want to discuss that because this has yet to be researched. Yeah. Well, in our case, for example, we said that this research has been conducted in America. Yeah, this has become the phenomenon in America, and in Malaysia, we found that a number of research have talk about religious pluralism, about secularism, and we found that people have casted their view or their worry about the young people losing sense of understanding and commitment to religion, but they have yet quantitative survey that or quantitative study that measure to what extent the understanding of the young people towards religion, their practice of religion affects their their understanding of secularism, of liberalism, and of pluralism. They have yet this. So that is our research gap. So you do that at the end of your literature review. Remember, the research gap is very interesting. Well, one of the good instructor on research methodology by the name of Othman Talib, yeah, he said that is it necessary? I mean, he questioned, is it necessary for all research to have research gap? Yeah, well, not necessarily in the sense that maybe it is not really a gap lah, but you want to conduct similar research because you think that research is useful and you want to see if that research can help you to find a certain to get into certain findings. For example, like I said just now, we have done a research in Kuala Lumpur or in Lembah Kelang, so you want to replicate the same research in other states, kan? That I mean, technically speaking, there is no gap lah. Yeah, but gap in the sense that you want to use similar tools to understand the context in the different contexts or different environment. So technically no gap, but you are using similar tools at a different environment. Maybe because you are so confident, or maybe you want to test. You want to test that instruments. You want to check the reliability and the validity of that instrument. So you conduct, right? So I think this is also excellent perspective offered by Osman Talib. He called himself Dr. OT. For international students, I'm so sorry, this person is bilingual. He can deliver in English as well, but most of his video clips, most of his sharing on the Facebook is in Malay. But I think if you email him, if you contact him, he will respond. Yeah, he's very generous in terms of knowledge, and I think he's very much into research methodology. He's very passionate. Uh, I think he will respond to you. Yeah, I myself also is a follower of him. Yeah. So the steps, Ms. Pa, to answer your questions, also, Creswell has shared. I found that literatures on literature review has frequently quoted from Creswell, so that's why I took him because he's, very reputable and referred to by many uh, scholars who wrote on literature review. So these are 5 of the techniques or the steps. Yeah. So first is to identify keywords. Yeah, I did not ask you to identify keywords. I asked you to identify research area. Yeah. Search digital bases or reference work. Okay, Zotero, Mendeley, or even I asked you to go to JSTOR. Yeah, to IRAP, or the research getaway will be useful to you. Academia Edu and ResearchGate, yeah, or even kan as simple as writing the areas, say for example comparative religion PDF. You will get the materials, yeah. but you will get whole lots of it lah. But if you go to academia edu, go to researchgate, or you go to scopus ISI website, you will find only referred materials lah, and then of course you will find many of them, yeah. And Creswell said 50 pun, 5 to 50. 5 to 50. Yeah. 5 to 50. This is good enough for a proposal. 5 to 50. Master's proposal. In RKUD, one of the committee said, well, for masters 40, for PhD 100. Yeah, so if you do not have 40, you will have to face this person in the defense. Be careful, Usuluddin student.
Many.
Okay, and then draft summaries. Draft summaries, of course, I think I said to you, give me the draft and then I will help you how to improve the draft. Yeah? So, of course, you will have to write draft. In my experience, I think I have um, omitted, I have throw away kan. Last time during my time, I already use computer. When I did my FYP undergraduate, I typed, typewriter. So I remember that I throw a lot of papers lah. I throw a lot of papers. But in the when we write on the computer, you can save copy kan? Save copy. I didn't throw them all together. Especially now that I have Zotero account, I still have those works in my Zotero account. And whenever I have new versions of the literature review or whatever lah, I will still keep the other one. But don't forget to manage your file as well. Have proper folder, backup and backup. Backup, don't forget. Now that we have Google Drive, Alhamdulillah lah. I mean, we can share in the Google Drive kan. So we, even though say for example something happened to our computer kan, or the thumb drive is broken, you can still have those stuff in the Google Drive. Before the advent of Google Drive, I used to email my writings, because that time we don't have Google Drive. So the only way for me to retrieve my writings, in case if my computer is not working, I still can find in the emails. Now we have Google Drive, so we can open it anywhere. Good kan, technology. So the importance of literature, so I'm going to be very quickly to know what has been and has not been studied earlier. Of course, because what has not been studied earlier give much avenue for you to identify the research gap, right? And you know that you need not to repeat this one lah, because it has been researched many times. Yeah. I think there is one research area somebody shared in the submission, and they say there have been much study done on this lah. Yeah. But if you can find a research gap, if you still want to do on that title, make sure that you have a research gap. Then it's viable lah for you to do. Provides relates your study to a large dialogue in the literature. Well, if your study is good, people will go to your literature review and they will add you to the whole corpus of literature. You will find people referring to you. You know what? If you have academia edu, I encourage you to share your article in academia edu, not other people's article lah. You share your article. Of course, some people I found that they share other people's article, which is so good. But I think the best thing is to share your article there, because some other people wants to read your work and they can cite from your work. I found that my works are well cited. Yeah, because academia edu will tell me, Hasina, somebody search for you. Hasina, somebody search for your profile. Hasina, I know which particular article that is mostly read. because ResearchGate, Academia, EDU will tell me, oh, you have achieved certain, you have some achievements. Say, for example, 50 people read your article. And I know that which article is the not popular one. People don't read the article. And I found that heavy article, not so much read, but field work, well, mashallah, people read field work. Maybe because social scientists they need this 5 years later. So, my article on Muhibah, for example. And recently I published on mediation in July or June, if I'm not mistaken. By November, I think I have hit maybe 50. Well, actually, I'm not a famous, prominent researcher, but 50 for me is good for a few months. Can these few months, but people start to read my article. Um, so no, the most important thing is that you know that you are contributing to the literature. Yeah. And, people cite you, and then Academia EDU will tell you that your article has been cited. Also, Google Scholar. Google Scholar will tell you how many articles have been cited, especially high index article. Very sad. My article not so much cited in the index article. Stop. All right. That may be because I didn't publish much in the Web of Science or Scopus. I think up to now I only have 4 or 5 articles in the Scopus or I journal. I have many in the non-Scopus and non-ISI lah. But it's okay as long as you write. As long as you write, yeah. You start small first. Yeah, you start small first. Okay, and so on and so forth lah. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I think I've explained this as well. Okay, this is important. When you do your literature review, you will be able to come with this. You'll be able to identify the problem. This is why I want you to do literature review, because either you start with the questions, with the research objectives, and start with the problem statement, or you start with literature review, then you come with this problem identification, formulation, and problem statement. My experience told me that first you come with all this, rough problem statement, research question, research objective, very first draft, yeah, uh, SOP, research question, research objective, and problem statement. But after a very good literature review, you will be able to polish your research problems. Yeah, you'll be able to construct a statement of problem well. Yeah. In my next class, what I will do is that we are going to do exercise in class how to formulate research problem statement. How to formulate problem statement based on your literature. Alamak, boleh ke? The best the best is to have your literature review and you draft a problem statement, and then I can link between the two. But I think you will be taking like 2 weeks to do the literature review, then only you can come out with the problem statement. Tapi I think it's okay lah. Maybe even later I will come back to that and I'll see how to relate between your literature review and problem statement. Because in the next class we will do the exercise first. Yeah. um I will give you some paragraphs, and then we try to generate problem statement from that paragraph. All right. Okay, can I continue a little bit more? Are you tired already?
Yes, I
Huh?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, madam. Yes.
You can proceed.
Can you can.
Please proceed.
Oh, that was it. Okay. And anybody else would like to ask or say something?
Yeah, ma'am.
Madam,
Uh-uh.
Sa- we get one message about submission. The same place we have to submit or different, as one of the sister or brother.
Oh, okay. Yes, you submit the same platform. You know where you submit because you see, I can put the grade there. In the first submission, you will find that you will be the allocation is 20 marks, can? 20 marks for type of submission, right? First is the research area, second is the research title, and apa tu, this Zotero kan. And then I think, tak ingat lah, research problem, research questions ke?
Yeah, as we
Ah,
said,
research
as we had
problem.
submitted last time, same
Ah,
way.
so four of them you submit in the same at the same platform. Maybe you notice now I've given you 5 marks kan based on the research area. So when you make a second submission, I will add the marks. So at the same platform. Yeah.
Okay, noted.
All right. When we search some article Google Scholar, we find name in Google, but that does not show in Zotero on how we'll write more when more authors. Okay, jap. We find it in Google but does not. Oh, maybe because they do not publish in uh Zotero. I mean, Zotero did not index them, or the article is not properly indexed, especially if the article is conference material.
Yeah.
If it is conference material, then you need to do it manually.
Manually in Zotero account.
Yes, yes, yes. Then you click
Yeah.
conference lah. You click conference.
I see.
So okay. Now how will write when more authors? Yes, you can see at the author section. You can add. There is plus and minus kan. So
Oh,
you click the plus, you will find that. Even when you click that, you will find you can choose either author, co-author, editor, or something like that lah. You explore.
oh,
So for
okay.
example, one book is edited by a single editor and many authors kan. So you can write editor, for example, editor Haslina Ibrahim Haslina, and then you click plus, you find out under that author. Author is Shahran Farid. Author Brother Azril, Muhammad Amin Azril. So this will be reflected in the references later on. Yeah. Madam, could you show us please how to submit our assignment? Yeah, yeah. Salahuddin, I have already answered you kan? I hope you understand. You submit at the same platform where you
Yes,
submit
yes,
the
ma'am.
research area.
Yes, ma'am. I got it.
All right. Thank you.
Uh,
Okay, let's
One more,
go.
ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, is it should one topic until the bibliography or
I think by this time, no, 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 not necessarily one topic. You can give up to 5, but, we will select from that topic. But you know what? I assume your bibliography will more or less reflects the similar, I mean, your title, because you refer to the same references, right?
yes?
Will not be major too different lah from one title to another. For example, in the title, you will not have Abdu and problem of free will and predestination, and then another title, Christian study of salvation. Because it means that you have jumbled up your literature. You have not decided yet lah, because later on when you do literature review, you need to narrow down, because you will definitely choose one title, right? So if you give me that title, then I know that you are still not very you have yet to decide what your title is about. Then perhaps I can advise you. We will discuss this in the next class, inshallah.
Allah.
I will respond individually to individual, and then whatever it is, whatever advice I've given you, this is only my inputs here. You know your research better, As a
Yeah.
researcher, you understand your research better. But then, I trust that you will try to comprehend the best mean possible to conduct your research. Because otherwise, at the end of the day, it's not me who will be facing the difficulties, it is you. So you are responsible to choose the title that suits you well. Um,
Yes.
I can only guide. Your supervisor also can only guide you. Yeah, but the one that is going to maneuver the research is you. Yeah, so do not feel that if I think you do this but you don't want to do that. You want to do the other title. Carry on, you do it. But the Malay say buat sampai jadi. Ya, Abdul Karim,
Yeah.
Salahuddin,
Yes, yes.
Hassan, Misbah, buat sampai jadi.
Ah,
Abdul Karim, I'm
Tak
teaching you.
tahu, tak tahu.
Yes.
Abdul
Tak tahu.
Abdul Karim learn Hebrew kan. Hebrew is difficult. So now bahasa Melayu is very simple. Buat sampai jadi means you have to do it until it happen the way you want it to happen.
Okay.
Okay, Abdul Karim? Alright, inshallah. If you can study Judaism, Hebrew language, you can study. You can do research because I think, to tell you frankly, I think Judaism is very difficult to learn because
Hebrew,
Hebrew and
Hebrew, Hebrew
yeah,
is so difficult. I think English more than Hebrew. Difficult.
yeah, difficult because a lot of technical terms, right? Hebrew terms, and I think like Hinduism, they are very, how do you say, very diverse, right? Diverse understanding of religion depends whether you are Orthodox or depends whether you are Reforms, Jew.
But Judaism near to Islam, so if any Muslim person can study Judaism, so near to Islam.
Yeah, mashallah.
Has
Hmm.
similar things, a lot of similar things.
Do you think the Jews in America is the same with the Jews in, say, for example, in Europe or in Palestine?
No, no, no. They have
When,
a lot of facts in Palestine.
hmm.
There are many kinds of Jews.
Oh, that's why.
But in USA, they radically more radical than in
Hmm.
Palestine. They have
Hmm.
some rules. For example,
Hmm.
most of them don't speak Hebrew because they saying
Hmm.
it's holy language. We shouldn't speak
Hmm.
it in the street.
I
So they
see.
speak a special language called Yiddish.
Ah,
They
inshallah.
created it since
Oh,
10 centuries by
okay.
Hebrew letters and some German and Russian words
I see.
called Yiddish. So every aspect different from the other.
Oh, mashallah. That's why I say it's very complex to study Judaism. But if you can do it, mashallah, by all means, my late professor, Almarhum Professor Irfan, he has written a book on Judaism, Al-Yahudi, yeah.
Mm.
Arfan, did you manage to get it? Arfan Abdul Hamid Fattah.
No,
You go to the library. I think the book is there in Arabic. Al-Yahudi, yeah. Irfan Abdul Hamid Fattah.
there are many books called the
Hmm.
name title Al Yahudiya.
But then you can you please include Irfan Abdul Hamid Fattah because he's my teacher. uh, and I think because he's a Cambridge graduate.
Ah, mashallah.
So he studied from who's this person who translate the Quran, Arbery, AJ Arbery.
Mm.
AJ Arbery translate the Quran, and AJ Arbery was his teacher. So if you learn from him, you also have that chain.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Interesting, eh? I have respect for him very much. All right, so
The next class we will do our lecture review.
come again. Come again. What was the question?
The next class we will do
Uh,
our lecture review, inshallah.
um, you I don't really remember the timeline I put for your assignment, but if I'm not
2 weeks.
mistaken, if
You
it
have 2 weeks for research problem and
okay,
question.
all right, good, good. So you can still have time to do literature review.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
the toughest.
Yeah,
We have
yes, the toughest thing.
we
Yes.
have limit for must for references 5, 6. We have limit.
Today I'm giving you the techniques or what literature is all about. And I said that next week I am going to share with you some exercise, and then you try to derive research problem from that exercise, from that paragraph. So basically for literature review, I don't have specific exercises, but I can generate one if you wish to have that experience exercise. You want that exercise? We can do that in next class. So we have exercise for literature review as well as exercise for research problems. Okay. So next class, don't miss the class. We will do exercise. Maybe I should give marks for that exercise to make sure that you come to the class.
Basic.
Okay,
Okay.
madam.
Apa dia? What is that? Alright, tak apalah. All of you are very good student, insyaAllah. Okay, 5 minutes, give me 5 minutes. So problem statement is actually a statement to explain your problems lah, to describe the problems. Um, some researcher they give questions when they design the research problem. So a problem statement they give questions. uh, why and what and how, for example. Some people, some researcher adopt this technique when they draft their problem statement. I mean, this is good also, and some come with a hypothesis. Yeah, for example, I said, for example, in my research, last time research, I said that, said that it is assumed that those who receive formal education in Islamic studies subscribe to a traditional understanding and practice of Islam. This research therefore will examine if the young people who go to religious schools or study religion at school uh, also subscribe to have better understanding and practice of religion. Example. Yeah, instead of saying that why are the young people understand religion, are the young people who went to religion who obtain formal education in Islamic studies understand and practice the religion very well. I can also draft my problem statement in that manner. Yeah, or I just make a statement. Yeah. So it depends on how you think the best to draft or to put your problem statement. So by separating research question from the body, now when you have, for example, when you adopt the questions approach, then most likely you will share the questions that you have in the research questions. That's why I think, as for me, I don't prefer that one because it's like repeating what you have in the research questions. It's not very how do you skillful lah. It does not show that you are skillful in explaining the problem because it's just like you copying the questions in the research questions, right? But again, depends lah how you think the best to explain your problems, or maybe you can also how much the young people who have formal education in religion subscribe to the idea of religious freedom. Maybe you don't have that questions in the research question. You have the questions about whether they understand their religion, whether they practice religion, whether they what their perceptions on apostasy, for example. So you don't have this question in the research question, but then you break down this question in the statement of problems. Yeah. Uh, Research questions are simple statements. Itulah. So research question simple statements raising question regarding the problem. So your the best is problem statement is that when you are able to communicate the questions in a statement form. Yeah. Together with research question and hypothesis statement, I have given you my hypothesis just now that it is hypothesized, so it is assumed that so on and so forth. This is very much relevant if you are conducting empirical research. Let me see. Okay, for example, I have conducted a research on whether kalam and comparative religion can get along together. In the Muslim study of comparative religion, should we subscribe to, no, should we adopt kalam or should we adopt, kalam in the study of comparative religion? So my statement was the study of comparative religion, the study of other religions among the Muslim scholars or in the Muslims intellectual tradition emerged in theology during the 7th to 12th century. This research therefore looks forward if the study of other religion in the Islamic institution should adopt should adopt theology in its approach, for example. Yeah. So I uh, or my one of my article is about intellectual veracity. So I am asking, is it possible for Muslim Islamic institutions who teach comparative religion, who offers comparative religion, uh, to adopt kalam, yeah, uh, in order to emphasize the importance of intellectual veracity in the study of religion. Okay, because earlier I've mentioned about how comparative religion is taught in the Western context. It should be neutral, it should be non-biased and prejudicial. So there is no such thing as intellectual veracity in the context of Western scholarship of religion or comparative religion. Now, in the context of Islamic institution who teach comparative religion, is intellectual veracity important and whether it is possible or not. This study, therefore, looks forward, so on and so forth. So it's not a hypothesis lah, but it's still about giving some background to the research and uh, making the reader think together with you. Think together with you. So intellectual veracity is something about judgment. I don't want to use the word judgment. I use about intellectual veracity. So whether we should adopt judgment in the study of religion. But of course, because the word judgment is very negative in the Western intellectual tradition, in the study of religion, I didn't use the word judgment, so I used the word intellectual veracity. And how I came about with this term, intellectual veracity, I took a lot of readings lah, because very difficult. I cannot use the word judgment because if I use the word judgment, it automatically give the idea of biasness and prejudices. So I need to find a neutral term, but that neutral term cannot be, coming out of nowhere. So I need also to give value, give credit. Make sure that the term is credible enough. Alright, so okay, this is a technique. What, who, where, okay. The research. Your research objective must include these five, yeah, five items. So simple, measurable, I think ada lagi ke panjang. Okay, last. Simple, measurable, achievable, researchable, and testable. So when you design your research objectives, yeah, bear in mind that your research objective will also be your research question. For example, the first research question is that I want to analyze whether the study of religion in the Islamic institutions um, should consider adopting, should emphasize on the importance of intellectual veracity. So this is my objective. So my research question would be, is intellectual veracity valid, uh, uh, is valid as an approach in the Islamic, in the study of religion in the Islamic institution? Okay. So it must be reflected and it must be simple. The question must be simple. Yeah, measurable, not in terms of the mathematics lah kan, but you have the materials that can help you to examine the research. I mean, that questions can be answered and achievable. Some people like to measure the understanding, to measure the practice. When you use the word measure, you have to be very, very careful, because when you talk about measuring, you have to have the tools that is able to come with tangible output lah, at least numbers, yeah, at least numbers. So to measure, maybe for qualitative research, at least for you to be able to say at the end of the findings, maybe you can say strongly, apa nak cakap, strongly believe, not believe at all. No, at least there must be standard for you, standard for you to report. Yeah, otherwise actually there is no measurement at all. Researchable. Yalah, researchable, like for example, I don't know, Abdul Karim, in Malaysia, I don't know whether we can study the Jews in Malaysia, because Malaysia do not recognize uh, what do you call that, Israel, right?
I
So
know.
I remember I was asking one professor from Japan to join our research in IIUM, and then she is in Japan, so she's white lah kan. So I don't know that she's a holder of Israel passport. So I said, oh, why don't you come and share your research findings and compare? And then she said that my passport is not recognized by your country. Oh, then I noticed that, oh, she's from Israel, and we don't recognize Israel, so they cannot come to our country. If you follow this one YouTuber, his name is Nas.
Yes,
I,
I know. No
Nas,
one.
Nas cannot come to Malaysia. The most
He lives in Singapore.
yeah, yes, you watched that video clip, right? So he cannot come to Malaysia because he holds Israel passport. So I mean, have to be able to make sure that you can get access to that. Now, if you want to find Jews in Malaysia, I don't know, even though
I think in Malaysia there is only one synagogue in Penang.
in Penang, that's why,
Yeah,
that's why.
only. So
Yeah,
and I think there is no community here.
yes, but then they are not. They are Jews by.
I put a title related to the history of Jews in Malaysia. I put title
Good,
uh,
good, good, good.
related to that,
But
the history.
they are Malaysians, or they are like permanent residents?
No, they were Malaysian. It's
Oh,
Judaism. It's in whole the world as no problem. You're Edek. They were Egyptian from Iraq, from Libya,
yeah, I know.
but
So yeah.
they don't believe in another ethics. So they are saying you are Egyptian and I am Jew. We are Jews. So
Yeah, yeah.
they are talking about Judaism not only as a religion but also as ethic, not religion.
Yes, as
They are saying
actually.
Arabs people and Jewish people.
Oh, Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so they are Jews first, then Malaysian, eh?
Yeah. But in the past, today I think there is
Mm.
no Jewish people here.
There are no Jewish people here. But then, why they have synagogue there in Penang?
In Penang, yes, synagogue, because they
Then
were
who
here in the past.
come again?
They were live in Penang in the past.
In
So
the
they have,
past. In the
I
past.
think, Sitterme and synagogue.
I see.
Mm.
Yeah lah. I know one of my lecturer, professor. She also said this, and she said to me there was some bunch of Jews, but she didn't research on them. So it was like only hearsay. Uh, and no concrete data lah about the existence of these people. Will be very interesting to know them. But I think it's very sensitive case in Malaysia. I don't know. You know, when it comes to religion, Malaysian quite close lah. I think it's a very sensitive issue kan in Malaysia. For your information, yeah, international students in Malaysia, this is based on what the policeman in Malaysia said to me, yeah, in one of the forum. Malaysia take religious issue as top sensitive.
Mm.
So, say for example, if there are murder cases and religious conflict, the police will attend religious conflict first before the murdering cases. They treat religious issue as extra sensitive. So you be careful whenever you remember
I
there was a Turkish man in Malaysia. So he was detained by ISA, by the security law, because of he speaks very openly about sensitive issue, religious issue
know,
in
I met in the beginning, when I came to Malaysia. I was with the driver. He wasn't
uh-uh,
Muslim. He asked me, "You are a Muslim?" I said,
uh-uh,
"Yes." He was
uh-uh,
Hindu, and he was so angry.
uh-uh,
Talk about Muslim. I hate Muslim. I hate Islam. And
uh-uh.
in the same time, but you look kind man.
But what
You look kind man. And then he continue about Islam, and Islam unfair. There is no
uh,
justice in Islam. He took me around 1 hour.
oh, okay, mashallah, interesting.
In Cameroon, I think you call it
Oh,
Cameroon
oh,
Highland.
oh, I see. I
Mm.
hope I hope his perspective of Muslims change with your
He hates Muslim. He hates
uh,
this country. He said because most of you are Muslim, so he said that Muslim are no don't know what the meaning of justice, what the meaning of fair.
hmm. Yelah,
When
because
I played him, he
hmm.
became more angry. So I was scared of him.
Okay.
He
Ah,
would kick me out.
so he dared to do that because he knows that you are not Malaysian. If he talks to Malaysian, he will definitely not be able to say that because we can actually charge him with what you call that. This is
I know he also talk about my country.
mashallah. That I mean, he's wow. He dare to say that. Huh? You
Yes,
should.
he said that almost your country is so Muslim too. You
This
haven't monetary like. I said no. We have Christian. We have Jew.
ah ah. This
Me,
person is driving
taxi driver.
taxi
In
driver. Oh, you should report. You should report because I think that is not only that is not patriotic, but that can be charged under this akta hasutan lah. How do you call it? Akta hasutan is very bad lah because you are. What is
mm,
hasutan in English? Can someone help me? Hana, Arif, hasutan. What is hasutan? Hasutan is like when you are making false claim, false accusation, false charging of people. You know,
mm.
apa dia? Sedition.
Yeah.
Yes, sedition. Sedition, yes, that is traditional statements of him. You can actually uh, mm,
But I was newcomer here, so I thought I am the reason to make him angry because I
uh-huh.
asked him before. I asked him, "Are you from India?"
Ah, I
He,
see.
after this question, he became
I
more angry.
see. I
So,
see.
so he started to
Tamil,
say
Tamil.
Muslim.
He was
I
Yes,
see. Yeah, that
Tamil.
is very yes, yes, yes. That is very sensitive
Yeah,
case to the Chinese.
I wasn't know the nature of the country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Then I became silent.
Okay, good. Yelah, because there are sensitive issues. I
Mm.
mean, for your information, in Malaysia, Indians and China and Chinese, they don't like it that you uh, associate them with China or India because they are Malaysians. They think that, of course, they are Malaysians lah, but they are Malay and Muslims in Malaysia who will charge them like, oh, if you don't like Malaysia, go back to India or go back to China.
I
This is
wasn't I wasn't know the problem, so I asked it
uh,
naturally
the,
about
uh,
nationality.
so it's okay. At least you know how people in Malaysia think about religion.
Yes,
Very
I
sensitive.
knew that. that.
Very sensitive.
Ma'am, I had a
Yes.
small question before going back.
Come.
URL should be underlined or we should withdraw the underline, because when you click the bibliography is a color is changed and is a underline, so we should change the in bibliography
Okay.
link,
Okay.
under the link is a underline, so we should withdraw or we keep it.
Oh, I mean, just keep it as it is.
Uh,
Keep it as it is
and
because it is how the system put it, right?
yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. Because you
so
see
withdraw.
in the on the internet, you see
Yeah,
the link is colored blue, right?
yeah,
But in the
yeah,
blue, so
blue
you
color
can
and
you can
underline.
differentiate between the book
Mm,
details and the link. But in the paper,
yeah,
it's going to be black. So if you do not have the underline, if you don't
okay,
have
okay,
underline, then you will not be able to differentiate between the link and the 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 details of
book.
the book. So you need to differentiate. So whenever you have line, it means that is link, yeah, in the text. Okay, and finally testable lah. You manage to test, or you manage to conduct, examine, analyze the the objectives. Yeah. So I think that's about is 7:45. Maghrib is very short. I'm so sorry. I've taken a lot of time today, and inshallah we will see. I will see you again next class. Inshallah. If you have any
Inshallah.
problems, do not hesitate. If you ask in the Google Classroom, tell me, or if you put anything there, tell me so I can. Because I don't really frequently open my Google Classroom. But if you ask in Google Classroom, tell me, I will go there and then I will answer. Everybody else can benefit from your questions. But if you ask me in the WhatsApp, only you can benefit from the question.
In
All
group,
right?
WhatsApp group as well.
Yelah,
Benefit
I mean, you benefit from my answer, but your friends will not benefit from my answer. All right. Okay. So I'm so sorry. I have to, very quickly close this class. Thank you so much for your patience. And inshallah, I'll see you again next class. I will upload our lecture today and some other lecture video clip. Yeah. All
Inshallah,
right. Thank you. Assalamualaikum,
ma'am.
everyone.
Thank you, madam.
Allah.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
madam.
Bye bye.
Thank you,
Okay. Thank
madam.
you.
So much.
All right.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.